April 1, 1951. Off Korea's eastern coast, USS Wisconsin turned toward land. Seconds later, 9 guns fired. So what were these? Those guns were among the largest ever mounted on an American warship. Most people assume they existed to sink enemy battleships. That seems logical, but it's only part of the story. By the time USS Wisconsin entered combat, naval warfare, so if these guns built mainly for fighting ships, what was their real mission? The answer begins years before Korea. During World War II, a deadly problem emerged. Coastal bunkers blocked every landing. They survived bombing. These weren't ordinary defensive positions. Many were built inside reinforced concrete. Smaller naval guns could damage them. The Navy needed something far more powerful. That problem completely changed the purpose of America's biggest battleships. Their largest guns weren't built simply to fight ships at sea. They were built to destroy fortresses. It was designed to smash through thick concrete before detonating inside the bunker. So just how powerful was one of these shells? Each shell weighed nearly 2,700 pounds. That is more than many small cars. Fired at tremendous speed, it could punch through reinforced fortifications. Wisconsin carried 9 of these guns in 3 massive turrets. When they fired together, the goal wasn't one target, entire defensive position. But how were all 9 guns aimed so accurately? Power alone wasn't enough. Even a small error could miss the target. Someone had to know where the first one landed.
Landed!
The answer came from high above. Aircraft watched every strike.
Correct fire, drop 50.
How did corrections reach the ship?
Fire on target.
They told Wisconsin where to land. Inside Wisconsin, those radio reports went directly to the fire control team. Every new coordinate, together those tiny a small amount, far more accurate. Each new salvo landed closer than the last. Shells began striking the very bunkers protecting the shoreline. But could they survive direct hits? Most couldn't. Repeated impacts collapsed firing positions, buried entrances, and destroyed heavy coastal artillery. Wisconsin's guns weren't trying to win the battle alone. They were preparing the battlefield, giving Marines a better chance of surviving. Even so, bombardment had limits. Some enemy positions remained hidden inside caves, beyond the reach of naval fire. So what happened when they reached the shore? The Marines quickly discovered that some defenders had survived underground. Naval gunfire had weakened the defenses, but it couldn't replace soldiers fighting on the ground. This explains why battleships and Marines always worked together. One destroyed the strongest defenses from the sea, the other secured the ground that ships could never occupy. By the end of World War II, Wisconsin's guns had proven exactly why they existed. They weren't simply naval weapons. They became some of the most powerful artillery ever deployed. Many believed that mission would end after World War II. But only 5 years later, another war began in Korea, and Wisconsin's 16-inch guns would prove they were still unmatched. The answer became clear in 1950. When war broke out in Korea, United Nations forces again faced heavily defended coastlines, mountain bunkers, and hidden artillery. Enemy guns were often hidden inside mountainsides. Aircraft could attack them, but many positions survived. So what weapon could reach those targets? Once again, Wisconsin's 16-inch guns had the answer. Their massive shells could strike mountain entrance and silence artillery that smaller weapons struggled to reach. Notice that the target still wasn't an enemy ship. Just as in World War II, the mission remained the same: to destroy defenses that threatened soldiers. That precision came from teamwork.
Fire mission, Korea, Sierra 1-1. Ground observers reported corrections. Drop 50, repeat.
The target was neutralized. Within minutes, another enemy battery fell silent. Every destroyed position meant fewer shells falling. Wisconsin was protecting soldiers miles away. By now, the pattern was impossible to ignore. In 2 different wars, separated by years, Wisconsin's biggest guns kept receiving the same mission. That couldn't be a coincidence. The mission had never really changed. These guns existed to destroy hardened positions. Battleships were simply the platform. But if aircraft and missiles improved, many wondered whether giant naval guns still had any purpose. Had their time finally come to an end? For a while, it seemed the answer was yes. Wisconsin entered reserve, and many believed the age of battleships was over. Then, decades later. By the late 1970s, many believed the battleship era had ended. Missiles could strike targets hundreds of miles away. On paper, Wisconsin's giant guns seemed outdated. The answer wasn't that missiles had failed. It was that missiles and battleship guns solved different problems. Commanders still needed a weapon to deliver massive, sustained fire against targets close to friendly troops. A missile could destroy one important target with remarkable precision. But when an entire defensive area had to be suppressed for hours, Wisconsin's guns could keep firing again and again. That difference mattered. During long operations, ground commanders needed fire support. Wisconsin could respond within minutes and continue firing as the battle moved. To prepare for modern warfare, Wisconsin was upgraded. New electronics, radar systems, and guided missiles were added. But one thing, the 9 16-inch guns. The Navy modernized the ship. Those guns offered something no missile could replace. Overwhelming firepower, delivered exactly where ground forces needed it. During Operation Desert Storm, Wisconsin returned nearly half a century after she had first entered service. Many expected missiles to dominate the campaign. They did, but Wisconsin's 16-inch guns were also called into action against Iraqi coastal defenses threatening coalition operations. Nearly 50 years after they were designed, the guns were still performing the very mission they had always been built for, destroying hardened coastal positions. World War II. Korea. But what made these guns slight for nearly 50 years when so many other weapons became obsolete? The answer wasn't simply their size. Many large guns have existed. Wisconsin's guns remained valuable. How far could they reach? Using standard ammunition, the guns could strike targets more than 20 miles away. That allowed Wisconsin to remain safely offshore, while still supporting troops. Range alone wasn't enough. Every shell still had to hit the correct target. That's why Wisconsin relied on trained observers, radar, and precise fire control systems, working together as one team.
Once the firing solution was confirmed, the crew repeated the process with remarkable consistency. The guns weren't just powerful, they were engineered to deliver accurate fire over and over again.
That reliability made a critical difference.
Requesting fire support!
Ground commanders could request it, confident that Wisconsin would respond. Even after guided missiles, commanders needed more. They needed sustained bombardment across a wide defensive area, and that remained Wisconsin's specialty. This is why the guns stayed relevant for decades. Their mission never changed. They existed to prepare the battlefield before friendly forces. So the real strength of the 16-inch guns wasn't winning wars by themselves. Their strength was giving soldiers on the ground a better chance of surviving the fight ahead. After almost 50 years, the evidence pointed to one conclusion. Wisconsin's guns solved the same problem. Now the final answer is within reach. These guns were never famous simply because they were enormous. They became legendary because they accomplished their mission. But what exactly was that mission? After following Wisconsin through 3 different wars, one pattern becomes impossible to ignore. The target changed, the enemy changed. So what does that tell us? It tells us these guns were never built simply to fight other battleships. By the time Wisconsin entered service, the Navy already understood that future wars would often be decided on land. That meant soldiers would eventually have to land on hostile beaches or advance beneath enemy artillery. Before they could move safely, those defenses had to be destroyed from offshore. That was the real purpose of Wisconsin's main battery. Not naval duels or chasing enemy fleets. Its job was to break fortified positions, to save friendly forces. Everything reflected that mission. The weight of each shell, their sustained rate of fire, and the coordination with ground troops. This explains why the guns remained useful. For nearly 50 years, the battlefield evolved, but the need to destroy hardened defenses before an assault never disappeared.
Eventually, precision-guided weapons became more flexible and less expensive to operate. As technology advanced, battleships gradually gave way to newer systems built for the same strategic purpose.
Replacing the battleship didn't erase its legacy. Modern weapons inherited the mission. Wisconsin proved how naval firepower could shape the battlefield. Stepped ashore. History remembers something more important: the purpose they fulfilled every time they were called into action. The answer is clear. These guns were built to destroy coastal defenses, protect advancing troops, and prepare the battlefield. making them one of history's most effective weapons.